Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today we are doing the second episode of Witch Wednesdays. Now, I know when I uploaded my previous Witch video, A Brief-ish History of Witch, I didn't actually mention that it was going to be part of a series called Witch Wednesdays. That was mostly because I hadn't decided that yet, but I kind of decided when I was uploading it that I was going to put it up on a Wednesday, and then thought, hey, why don't we make it called Witch Wednesdays? I upload them on a Wednesday. Clearly not every Wednesday, as I'm sure you've noticed, because there hasn't been one in a good few weeks now. But my idea is really that these videos are going to be, I expect, a bit shorter, and because they're all on one topic, I thought rather than them being my main video, which goes up on a Friday afternoon, if you haven't noticed, I'm going to put them up on a Wednesday, so that they're separate from my main content, but, you know, still there. So, there might be a week where there's a video on a Friday and then a Witch video on a Wednesday. There might just be a video on a Friday. Depends whether or not I've got my Witch content made in time. But I've been working on this one for a wee while now. It's got quite a big script. So basically what I'm going to be doing is I've made a PowerPoint presentation and I'm going to be taking you through it. And it's all about the main cast of the Witch cartoon, because I think the cast are super talented. I'm a big fan of all of them. And I just really wanted to share that love with you. So hopefully I'm going to tell you a bit about them. You'll probably, or hopefully, learn some things you didn't know before. And it might give you some new content to check out. If you like the cast and you know where else you can find them, then you can go and look that stuff up. And hopefully we're all just going to have a bit of fun. So without further ado, let's get into the presentation. So welcome to my lovely presentation. It's called Spotlight on the Witch main cast by Lost Talks, which is me. And yeah, today we're going to be talking about the cast. We're going to be looking specifically at the main cast for this one. I do want to do a follow-up video looking at some of the supporting cast, but when I wrote down like all of the cast members who played like significant characters in the series, it went on for so many, like there was just so many of them, and if I was going to write a paragraph about each one of these actors, this video was going to be so long. So I figured, you know what, we'll break it up and we'll do one for the main cast and then we'll do one for the supporting cast, because otherwise this is going to be just the most ridiculous. I mean, my videos tend to be quite long already. I don't know if you've seen my video on Fate the Winx saga, card up there, but it went on. I don't know how to be concise when I talk, as you can see right now, because I'm babbling. So let's get into it. So we're kicking off with, of course, Will Vandam. So Will is played by an actress named Kelly Staples. Now, when Kelly got the role of Will back in 2003, she was not well known in the acting business at all. She was like quite fairly unknown. In fact, her biggest role at that point had actually been as the stunt double as Samara in The Ring. She was the stunt double for W, I think that's how you pronounce it, W.I.T.C.H, and she'd done stunt work in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man and appeared in a made-for-TV movie called BS. But despite her lack of television work, she was given the role as, you know, the main character, if you like. I mean, it's an ensemble, you know, 5 main characters, but she's the keeper of the heart, she's the leader of the group, so that's a big role for someone who doesn't have a lot of acting experience, which I think really says something about what the casting director saw in Kelly when she came to the audition for Witch. Kelly said that she loved the role of Will, and she was one of the actors who was desperate for Witch to return for season 3. There was a story about her, you know, after they finished recording season 2, like running up to the producers and excitedly asking when they could expect the scripts for season 3, which is really heartbreaking when you think about it, because that never happened, and she was sorely disappointed. But she's also known amongst the Witch cast for being just this really cheerful person, super friendly, and she built a really strong bond with her co-stars. Anytime you ask the other actresses about the time that they spent on Witch, they always mention how nice it was to spend time with Kelly, because she was just a breath of fresh air. However, since Witch ended back in 2006, Kelly's career has gone from strength to strength. She appeared in 3 seasons of 2.5 Men as Alan's girlfriend / receptionist, Melissa, and she was super popular with fans, and the entire reason why I spent like a year saying yippers all the time until my friends wanted to kill me. From there, she went on to appear in a series called Romantically Challenged, although it was cancelled after 4 episodes, unfortunately. But in 2011, she landed a leading role as Eden in the sitcom The X's, which ran for 4 seasons. And in 2017, she played a recurring part in the popular sitcom Superstore, alongside America Ferrera on NBC. Most recently, she reunited with Witch's Season 2 supervising producer Greg Wiseman for an episode of his series Young Justice. So I suppose Greg must have really enjoyed her performance as well and wanted to bring her back for his series. On a personal note, I really love Kelly. I think she's super adorable and I just really love her energy. And like I said, she made me say yippers all the time because I just think she's super infectious and lovely. Next up, we've got Candy Milo, who played Irma Lair, as well as Principal Knickerbocker, Irma's mother Anna, and Trill, who was, Noessa in disguise. Sorry for spoilers if you haven't seen it. I don't know why you'd be here if you hadn't. Candy is a big name in the voice acting world with a whole bunch of famous characters under her belt, as you can see in this little picture we have here of a whole bunch of her characters. Her filmography includes playing Astro Boy in the 2003 remake series, Madame Foster in Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, Maya and Tito in Maya and Miguel, as well as being the voice match for Christine Kavanagh in Dexter's Laboratory and certain Rugrats video games. Candy's career actually started in music, and that was what she planned to pursue. She began singing at a theme park back in 1977 before becoming a member of the Mighty Carson Art Players on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. At first, Candy was disappointed to be signed to a voice acting agency because she wanted to be a singer, but when she landed her first role by reading The Three Little Pigs and making the wolf kosher and the three pigs suicidal, it was clear that she was perfect for this job. Outside of her voice work, Candy is very outspoken about her political opinions and uses her social media as a platform for change. She's a strong supporter of Bernie Sanders and the Black Lives Matter movement, and if you go onto her Twitter, you can quite often find her retweeting important political messages and points that she stands for. So she's very involved in the kind of social and political issues of the world. She's a super nice person. She was one of the people who really campaigned for Witch to come back for a season 3. Her and Dee Bradley Baker were running, or they were sharing the petition and trying to get people to sign it. She was really on board for trying to get the show back, but of course, unfortunately, that never happened. But she really loved this role and the show, and she really wanted it to come back, which I think is super cool. Next up, we have Miss Kitty, aka Kitty Kaboom, as Tarani Cook. Kitty's voice acting career began on the show, I think it's pronounced Sita's World, I don't actually know, don't quote me on that, where she provided the voice and motion capture for the computer Sita. Other than Tarani, Kitty's biggest voice roles have been Trixie Carter in American Dragon Jake Long, as you can see here on the screen, and Rocket in Young Justice. Kitty has always been more prolific in her radio career than animation, however, and she's currently hosting her show Here Kitty Kitty, as in here, like your ears, Kitty Kitty, on Dash Radio, having previously worked with Big Tigger on his show Live in the Den, and as Spinderella on her own show The Black Spin. Kitty has a degree in broadcast and print journalism, which I think is pretty cool because my degree is in broadcast production, so we've got something kind of in common there. And she put that to use when she was a columnist for Juicy and Honey magazines, as well as a vlogger for Latest.com. She was also previously a vlogger for Global Grind, as well as creating the web series Kitty Litter. According to Kitty, she created and is currently writing an animated series under the codename of Asinista and is developing her own radio station called Kit Radio, as well as writing 2 dark comedy dramas and getting her children's book published. So as much as we might not have seen a lot of Kitty in animation over the past few years, she has definitely been a busy lady and she's got loads of cool things coming up on the pipeline. So definitely keep your eyes out for what Kitty Kaboom is doing, because I think she's going to have some really great stuff coming our way soon. This is Crystal Khalil. She played Cornelia Hale, who is my favourite character, so I do apologise if I'm about to start gushing, but that's kind of who I am as a person. Crystal, I think, is a really interesting case because she actually got the role of Cornelia when she was only 16 years old, so she was only 3 years older than the character, and in voice acting, it's very common for adults to play children because it's just much easier to get an adult to do what you want them to do with their voice, and they've trained and they've got all these skills, rather than it is to get a child to voice a child because they don't have the same kind of vocal ability. But Crystal was only 16 and she got the role of Cornelia, which made her the actress closest in age to her character amongst the main cast. Prior to which, Crystal had a variety of small roles in television as both a child and a teenager. She appeared in Matilda as one of the children in Matilda's class. She was in a Mary-Kate and Ashley film, in Family Matters, and in Interview with an Assassin. In 2002, Crystal took on the role of Lily Winters, the daughter of Neil and Drusilla Winters in The Young and the Restless. Lily was only 14 and was a naive girl who got into all sorts of chaos, including getting an STI from an abusive boyfriend, falling into a coma after being drugged at a party, and all other kinds of drama. The writers and the producers on the Y and the R called her an incredible actress and said she brought fire to the role. And actually, in 2012, Crystal won the Daytime Emmy Award for Outstanding Young Actress in a Drama Series, after being nominated 4 times in the past. Crystal had no prior voice acting experience when she took the role of Cornelia, but she was drawn to the role. She said at the time that it was difficult to work additional acting roles on top of a daytime soap opera because of the really busy filming schedule that you have. You film every day because soap opera airs 5 days a week, so you have to film 5 days a week to keep up with that. And it was really difficult to go and do other work on top of it and get more experience, but for which she only had to come in the morning and record her lines, and then she could go off in the afternoon to do her work on The Young and the Restless, which meant that she was actually able to do both roles at the same time. Crystal also said she enjoyed the role of Cornelia due to the fact that Cornelia is so different to Crystal herself. Crystal is mixed race, and she has a Pakistani father and a mother who is of Native American, African American, and European descent. So she's definitely mixed race. She's not biracial, she has multi-race. And she said that the only time in her life that she would ever be able to play a white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed valley girl was in animation. She would never get a role like Cornelia on the television in live action, but she got that role because in animation you can be whoever you want to be, and she really enjoyed being able to do something that was so different from who she is. Despite a brief departure from The Young and the Restless from 2005 to 2006, Crystal has remained part of the main cast and is still playing Lily to this day. Other than the Y&R, you might recognise her from her 2-episode role in That's So Raven as a character called Crystal, which you can see down the bottom of the page here. She was the one who said to Eddie that her favourite colour was either periwinkle blue or seafoam green, and that whole phrase just lives rent-free in my brain. She was also Kristen Peterson in Malcolm in the Middle, and I've included a picture here because she's the girl whose hair becomes stuck in her scooter helmet with chewing gum, and the image here is definitely pictures taken moments before disaster, if you've ever seen that episode. Thankfully, as I'm sure you can tell, it was a wig, so they didn't, ruin Crystal's hair with chewing gum. Next up, we have Elizadelmundo as Helen. Very little is actually known about Liza because she's very private and hasn't had a very extensive career. What we do know is that Liza is Filipino-American and was raised in San Diego. Her voice roles include being a voice host for Disney Channel, appearing in Danger Rangers, as well as playing Polaris in Wolverine and the X-Men, and I've included a picture of that here on the right. She also played a role alongside Candy Milo in Maya and Miguel. In 2005, she played the lead role of Imelda Marcos in the musical based on her life, and she is in the blue dress here at the bottom in that picture. That is Liza playing Imelda. But from what I've heard, Liza chose to retire from acting and is now just pursuing a normal life out of the spotlight, living. I don't know what she's doing now, but as far as I know, it's, a job that doesn't involve being in the spotlight, and she's very happy with her life. So it's a shame because she was such a good voice for Helen. She was so wonderful. But obviously, all I want is for her to be happy. So if she's happy with her life now, if this wasn't the career that worked for her, then I'm glad that she's off and she's doing what makes her really happy. Moving out of the Witch Girls now and into their extended posse, we have Greg Sipes, who played Caleb. and also Clubber. So Greg Sipes is a whirlwind of a human being. Whilst we might know him as Caleb, his most famous role is most definitely Beast Boy, who he played in Teen Titans Go, DC Superhero Girls, and Lego DC. Since taking on the role of Beast Boy in 2003, Sipes has been the voice of a whole squad of famous characters. He was Atlas in Astro Boy back in 2003, alongside Candy Milo as Astro. He was Chiro in Super Robot Monkey Team Hyperforce Go, Kevin Levin in Ben 10 Alien Force through Omniverse, and then also in Ben 10 2016, and all of the associated video games that come with them, and also Michelangelo in the 2012 Nickelodeon series of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He was also Ryan the Lion Cub in Disney's The Wild, and of all things, Buddy the Bellhop in the My Sims game. That one took me by surprise too, but it's true. In his free time, Sipes is also the lead singer of his own reggae band, which is called Sipes and the People, and they have 3 albums under their belt to date. Conscious Revolution, which released in 2007, Fire in the Sky from 2019, and Venice Beach, which was released last year in 2020. Sipes is a devoted vegan and animal lover, and he released a song back in 2010 called Why Must We Eat the Animals, Oh Why, Oh Why? And it was about his desire for a fully vegan vegetarian world. Sipes is also a deeply spiritual person who believes in a greater power and uses his platform to promote freedom, unity, love, and wholeness. He's also passionate about his political activism, although he doesn't really side with any political party. He just wants a world that is free of corruption, war, greed, hate, pain, suffering, all of those things. Sipes is known for his eccentricities, such as placing a mattress in the tree in his garden so he could sleep under the stars, and living in a tent in Roseanne Barr's garden for a good few months. He also loves cosplay, and I've included a picture here of a time that he showed up to Comic-Con dressed as Beast Boy in full green paint. And he's also a championship surfer, and in his free time he teaches surfing to underprivileged children in the Venice Beach area. Some of his closest friends in the industry include fellow voice actor Tara Strong, who plays Raven alongside him in Teen Titans, and of all people, Draco Malfoy himself, Tom Felton. On a personal note, when I was about 14, I was beyond obsessed with Greg Sipes. The way that the Directioners acted about One Direction, that was me with this man. My old school books are covered in me writing Greg Sipes with hearts over the eye, and me writing quotes and song lyrics from the Conscious Revolution. I was totally besotted with this man. I've moved on from that obsession, but I still think he's a pretty cool dude. And I mean, look at that smile. He's so nice. He's so pretty. Okay, I need to move on. Moving on now to our friend Blunk, and also Raythor and Kurt and a whole bunch of additional characters. This is Steve Bloom, or Stephen J. Bloom as he was credited in Witch. Steve Bloom is a powerhouse in the voice acting industry, and he's known mostly for characters that are very different from our pastling friend Blunk. Steve has hundreds of voice acting credits across video games, anime, cartoons, and other media, as well as holding the 2012 Guinness World Record for the most voice acting credits in video games. I have a feeling that's currently held by Troy Baker, but don't quote me on that. But back in 2012, it was definitely Steve Bloom. Steve's most famous role of all time is probably Spike Spiegel in Cowboy Bebop, and I've included a picture of him just here at the bottom. But he's also known for playing Zabuza Mamochi in Naruto, Wolverine in a variety of Marvel media, Tank Dempsey in Call of Duty, and many, many others. He was also known for being the voice of Tom, the host of Toonami, from 2000 to 2008, and returning to the role when Toonami was revived in 2012. In Western animation, he's also known for playing many of the aliens in the original Ben 10, such as Heat Blast and Four Arms, and playing Vilgax throughout the franchise. And of course for playing Starscream in Transformers Prime. Steve is married to fellow voice actor Mary Elizabeth McGuinn, who is known for her work in Silent Hill and anime, and he's a former student of voice coach Eliza Jane Schneider, who I worship. I was actually at one of her Zoom seminars recently, and Steve Bloom randomly showed up in the chat. Nobody knew he was coming. He just showed up in the chat, said hi, said you should sign with Eliza, she's wonderful, everyone in the chat was losing their minds and going, oh my god, it's Steve Bloom. Hi Steve, hi Steve. And he was like, hi everyone. Anyway, like, I need to get back to work. Bye. And everyone just like lost their collective minds that Steve Bloom himself had just dropped into this Zoom chat with us. I took a photo of it because I was just like, oh my god, this is the actual Steve Bloom. Another cool story I have about Steve Bloom is that my friend met him at a Comic-Con in Aberdeen, and she took her W.I.T.C.H DVDs for him to sign, and he was like super excited that someone had come up to talk to him about W.I.T.C.H because he said that no one ever does, like no one remembers it, and he was so happy because he said he loved playing Blunt. He thought it was such a great role, he really misses it. And then he signed her DVDs with the message, Blunt loves girlies, and she sent it to me and the two of us were just screaming. We were so happy. So Steve Bloom's a super cool guy. That's all I have to say. Super cool guy. Next up we have Serena Berman, who played Elion Brown, and Serena has actually had a very low-key career over the years, and which is the longest and most prolific role she's ever had. The only other role she's really well known for in TV was that she played Lucy Van Pelt in a couple of Charlie Brown TV movies. She's also had small parts in Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide, Justice League, and the others. However, Serena's personal website reveals that she's actually been doing a lot of other projects outside of acting, particularly playwriting, as well as doing voice work for commercials and appearing on podcasts. She's also been appearing in a whole variety of theatre productions, including playing Rosencrantz and Hamlet at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, and Squeaky Fromme in Assassins at W.I.T.C.H, which is a musical, so that would have involved her singing. And as you can see in this picture here, she does sing. I've never heard her, which is a shame, but she must be really good to get the part of Squeaky. It suddenly got really dark in here. I apologise if I look like really dark. It's just this the sun has just completely disappeared in the last 2 minutes. Serena has written 7 full-length plays which have had stage productions at different theatres around America, plus a whole load of short plays, which on her website she actually says if you want a full list to contact her because she has so many that there's too many to put on the website. All round, she's a really talented young lady, and I really hope that we get to see more of her one day in one of her plays or in the TV because she's great, and I'd love to get to see where she goes in life. Moving on now to Lauren Tom, who played Yan Lin and Susan Vandam, as well as Alchemy. Lauren Tom has had a wide and varied career in theatre, live-action television, film, and voice acting. She began her career in theatre at 17 when she had a role in a touring version of a chorus line and went on to win an Obie Award for her off-Broadway acting. In live-action television, she's probably most well known for her role as either Ross's girlfriend Julie back in season 2 of Friends. You know, the one that, oh, isn't that just spit on your neck, kick you in the crotch, fantastic. She's also known for playing Kevin Tran's mother, Linda Tran, in Supernatural. More recently, she was cast as Cecilia, or Cece, who was Andy's grandmother in the TV series Andy Mack on Disney Channel, and she was one of the main characters in that show. However, Lauren's most famous roles definitely come from her voice acting. You can see on the side here a picture of some of her most famous roles, which include Number 3 in Codename Kids Next Door, Sue in Mulan 2, Yoshiko in Kim Possible, the Hama in Fillmore, Gizmo in Jinx and Teen Titans, Susan Long and Counselor Chang in American Dragon Jake Long, and most recently she played Lady Masako Adachi in the critically acclaimed video game Ghost of Tsushima. She also appears in, I believe that's a picture of Futurama. I've never seen it, I don't really know anything about it, but I believe that's a picture of Futurama over there on the right. Do leave me a note in the comments if you know who that is. Another fun fact about Lauren is that her grandfather and uncle were both well-known businessmen and civic leaders in America. And actually in Chicago there is a Ping Tom Memorial Park with a bust of her uncle Ping in the centre of it. So if you ever go to Chicago, you can find Lauren Tom's uncle's Memorial Park. And I think that's pretty cool. Up next we have the incredible Dee Bradley Baker, who, as you can see, played quite a few roles in Witch over its 2 seasons. His most prominent was obviously Cedric, who is one of the main villains, but he also played Caleb's best friend Aldarn, Martin Tubbs, who's a fellow student, Frost and Crimson, who are bad guys, Mr. Huggles, Cor, Gargoyle, Agent McTeenan, and a whole bunch of additional characters, including that guy who works at the mall and Tees for Trauma and falls in love with Narissa. That's him too. He's just everywhere in this show. So, oh man, there aren't enough words to explain the talent of D. Bradley Baker. He's known in the voice acting industry for being inhuman. That's what they call him. Because he makes noises with his voice that are considered to, like, not be possible as a human being. That he must be some kind of, you know, otherworldly creature to make these noises. He's had so many voice acting roles that it's probably easier to name the cartoons that he hasn't been in, because his filmography is so large that it actually has its own page on Wikipedia. It's not just a bit at the bottom of his own page, it's a full page to itself. He's got so many roles. Dee started performing at age 9 before attending Colorado College and graduating with a BA in philosophy, of all things. His adult career in acting began with his work in an improv sketch comedy show called The Anatomical Players at Epcot. His first major exposure on television was in the Nickelodeon game show Legends of the Hidden Temple, where he was the announcer and voice of the rock god Olmec. After 120 episodes on that series, Dee moved to California to pursue a career in voice work, realising that he had a taste for it after that. His first major role in animation was as Cow and Chicken's dad in Cow and Chicken, and his first feature film role was as Daffy, Taz and Toro in Space Jam, which is pretty cool. I mean, that's a big movie, and he was right there in the centre of it. Some of Dee's other famous roles include Number 4 in Kids Next Door, which he played with Australian accent, and his character was romantically linked to Lauren Tom, so it's all connected. He also played Sanjay, Binky, and others in Fairly Odd Parents. He was Smitty Waterman Jensen, he was Number 1. In SpongeBob, he's played Daffy Duck. He's been in a whole bunch of video games. He is also really well known for his portrayal of non-human characters, which includes a range of animals for The Wild Thornberrys and Dora the Explorer, and the voice of Appa and Momo in Avatar, as well as Naga, Pabu, and Oogie. Is that how you pronounce it? Oogie? I've never seen Legend of Korra, I'm really sorry. I'll get round to it. I've seen all of Avatar. We'll get to Korra one day. Anyway, in Ben 10, he voiced most of the aliens in the sequel series Alien Force and onwards. And I've included a picture of that here, of like all the aliens that he voiced. He also very famously provided the sound for Perry the Platypus and Phineas and Ferb. You know that kind of clicky noise that he makes? And Dee finds this really amusing because he basically recorded 3 trial sound bites. They picked the best one and then reused it in every single episode of the series, meaning that Dee has been paid for every episode of Phineas and Ferb, and I think there's about 200 and something episodes in total and a movie. He got paid for all of them, and he recorded that sound once. He never had to record ever again for that show, and he got paid for every episode. So that is pretty cool, if you ask me. That's the best job I've ever heard of. As well, when talking about animal characters, he's the voice of Klaus the fish from American Dad, which, you know, he plays with a German accent, and he actually got an Emmy nomination, a Primetime Emmy nomination for that role. In video games, he's known for his roles as Gravemind in Halo, Joe in Beautiful Joe, and Hammond in Overwatch. Like I said earlier, Dee was actively campaigning alongside Candy Milo to get the Witch brought back for its season 3. Ultimately, it was in vain, but it's really awesome to know that he was out there trying to get the series brought back, because that means that he cared, and that makes me happy. Moving on now to our other main villain, Mitchell Whitfield. So Mitchell Whitfield is an interesting one because he's probably most famous for playing Barry in Friends. As you can see here, the picture at the bottom. The man that Rachel was supposed to marry and then ran out on him on the wedding, and then randomly shows up all through, you know, Barry Faber, the dentist. that's probably his most famous role. And I figured that out, and I realised that Barry, the dentist from Friends, is also the, most evil man in the universe, Prince Phobos. My brain could not process that information. One of the other roles I know him best for, though, as you can see here on the right, was that he was the director of the musical in the High School Musical episode of The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. It was called Lip Syncing in the Rain. If you remember, the whole idea was that the school and the show were putting on a production of High School Musical. There was a whole bunch of jokes about how Maddie looks like Sharpay because they're both played by Ashley Tisdale. Then there was that kid who was singing the song about floss. I've got beef between my teeth. That was Mitchell Whitfield. He was there for that whole experience. He was doing the floss dance. Well, the dance to the floss song, not the floss dance. And yeah, that was Prince Phobos. He has done some other voice acting roles in his time. He was actually in Winx Club. He played Professor Palladium. He was in Legend of Korra, Transformers Robots in Disguise, Buzz Lightyear of Star Command. So many things. Even Angry Beavers, like way back in the early 90s. And he played Donatello in the 2007 TMNT. So he's had a lot of different roles over his time, and he's a super cool guy. Like, even if he's always probably going to be remembered as being Barry from Friends, I'll always remember him as being our, evil Princey Pooh chilling with a villain, Prince Phobos. Now we're going to talk about this boy right here, Jason Marsden. Jason plays Matt Olson in the series, and so he obviously plays Shagon because they're the same person, essentially. If you're around the same age as me, there is a good chance that your first exposure to Jason Marsden was as a character in Boy Meets World who was Eric's best friend and named Jason Marsden. This is him over here on the left when he was just a young little baby man next to Will Friedle and Mr. Feeney. So the reason for that was that Will Friedle is actually Jason Marsden's best friend in real life. They've been best friends since they were children. I'm pretty sure they were best men at each other's wedding. And so when they needed a character to kind of play Eric's wingman in Boy Meets World, they asked Jason to do it since he was Will's best friend. And they just thought it was funny to call him Jason. And then one time they needed Mr. Feeney to use his last name because Mr. Feeney always called everyone Mr. and Miss. And so they just decided to call him Jason Marsden because they thought it was funny. Which meant that his first big role on television was playing himself, kind of. Very strange. Anyway. Over the years though, Jason's definitely become more famous for his voice acting roles than his on-screen roles. His most famous are playing Max Goof, which he's done since 1995 in every Disney production that's had Max Goof in it, and Kovu in The Lion King 2. And unfortunately he didn't provide the singing voice for that, but he was the actual voice of Kovu the lion. And I know so many girls who had a weird attraction to Kovu over the years, and I always thought it was funny because I was like, that's Jason Marsden, you're in love with a lion version of Jason Marsden. And I completely get why, because he's super cool, but, Other roles he's had include Gear from Static Shock, Felix from Kim Possible, Chester McBadbat from Fairly Odd Parents after Frankie Muniz left the role, and so many more. He's also well known for being the voice of a wide variety of Skyrim NPCs, including the Courier, that character that runs up to you and goes, "Got a letter for you, your eyes only." That's Jason. And also the bards, the male bards, are voiced by Jason Marsden, all of them. And they brought us such hits as Ragnar the Red and The Age of Oppression. That's all Jason, and he's using his real singing voice. Jason really does love to sing, and so it is him singing for Matt's songs The Will to Love and The Demon in Me. As much as he didn't sing on The Lion King 2, he is a singer and he does love to sing, so any other role that gives him the opportunity, he's right in there. And in his free time, Jason and his wife run a yoga studio in California. Because why not? Why not? And last but certainly not least is my queen, our evil beauty, Nerissa, played by Cathiecustis. Cathiecustis is a prolific voice actor with a wide range of roles under her belt, and you can see here just a snapshot of them in this little infographic. She actually began her career in stage and television work, particularly TV movies, but Kath felt that on-camera acting was restrictive, and she wanted something that gave her more creativity and freedom in her role, and decided that the way to do that would be to move into voice acting for animation, where the amount, the type of roles that you can play can be so much bigger, young people, children, old people, aliens, animals, so many different roles. And I only just found this out while I was researching for this, but she was the voice of Lola Bunny in the Space Jam movie. So like that, how everyone was in love with Lola, and there's a whole outcry right now because she looks less sexy. Let's not get into that. But yeah, that was Kath. That was our girl Marissa. She's also appeared as Kokiri in Kiki's Delivery Service and Mrs. Ogaki in My Neighbor Totoro. Her most famous roles definitely come from her work in animated television, however. She played Phil, Lil and Betty DeVille in Rugrats, Dexter's mom in Dexter's Laboratory, Cad Pig in 101 Dalmatians, the series, Butch in Recess. You remember Butch? He had the white stripe in his hair and was always eating a toothpick. Yeah, that was her too. Tish in The Weekenders, and so many more. She also has a prolific career in video game voice acting, and she played Amanda Everett in Tomb Raider Legend and Underworld, and believe me, I love... Tomb Raider is my favourite game series, and I love the Tomb Raider, Crystal D trilogy, Legend, Anniversary, and Underworld, not the Square Enix trilogy. That's for another video. But yeah, I love Amanda Everett so much. And when I turned that game on, I was like, that's Kath. I love it. And she was Taro in Final Fantasy X. And if you're a 90s girl who had a PS1 like I did, you might recognise her as being Becky, who was the girl in the wheelchair who helped Barbie with her Detective Barbie cases in the PS1 games. That's the world we live in. Kathy's a very private person though, and she doesn't do many interviews, so I don't really have much information about her life outside of acting. But what we do know is that she has an incredible talent for, being able to make characters sound sickly sweet, like Dexter's mom, making them sound, cool and seductive, like Lola Bunny, and making them sound pure evil, like Narissa. She has a very versatile voice, and I just love her. And that brings us to the end of the presentation. I really hope you've enjoyed. I've had so much fun presenting this to you, and I'll be back soon, hopefully, with my next Witch Wednesday I can't say words. And I'll be back very soon with my next Witch Wednesday video, hopefully, and I'll be back, of course, with my Friday uploads on Friday. And hopefully I'll be making a follow-up to this video at some point in the future with looking at the supporting cast, people like Grady Lyle, who played Miranda, and Burden Outfit, who played Uriah, and a whole bunch of other people, and Lauren Lester, who played Julian. There's so many great supporting actors in this show, and I'd love to get to talk about them too. But until then, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!